everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Learning Kitchen Live. I'm Beth. I'm one of the registered dietitians here at Community Servings, and I want to welcome you to our class today. I just want to do a special thank you to our friends at Boston Scientific who have generously been supporting this program. And as a reminder, if you've been following us along, we've been looking for some feedback on the programming. So after the class, there'll be a survey with some questions just about what kinds of programming you'd like to see, what kind of recipes. So if you're able to, after the class, just click on that survey and let us know what you think. So today, in light of the incredible heat wave that we've been having here in Massachusetts, I decided to make something that requires no cooking. And we're making a chilled borscht, which is a traditional like Eastern European Russian beet soup. So it kind of seems like one of those things that maybe your grandparents made, but I'm jazzing it up a little bit with some cucumbers and lemon and some rye bread. And I want to give a special shout out to my former colleague Rebecca Fennell, who came up with this recipe. So thank you, Rebecca. And if you're watching, I hope you are happy that we're making it here on campus. So basically, you would normally start with fresh beets, and you can certainly do that this way, but I did not want to turn on my stove this week when I tested the recipes. So I'm actually going to be doing this with canned beets. There's also beets usually available in the produce section that are pre-cooked, so that would be a great alternative option if you don't like canned items. But basically, all this is just going to get thrown together and put in a blender, chilled, and that's your meal. It's super healthy, and beets have a lot of nutrition. So beets have a lot of fiber, they're really high in folate, but they also have something in them called betalains, which are the phytonutrients that make them so red. And so that red is not just for show. It's not going to just make this beautiful, but it actually has a lot of benefits. So it has a lot of antioxidants, and it also can be very anti-inflammatory, and beets have also been shown to help lower blood pressure. So it's worth a try to add beets to your diet to get those special phytonutrients and extra boost to your immune system. So what I'm going to be doing for this is I'm going to be starting with some seedless rye bread, and we need about 2 slices of this, or something to equal about 1 cup. So we're just going to take the bread, and we don't want to use the end, but we just want to take the bread, and I'm going to just run my knife around the edge to take the crusts off because they'll be kind of tough. And these would make a good snack, or you could toast them up and make a crouton topping for your soup too, which would be kind of fun. And then it doesn't have to be too perfect. We're just going to chop them into little cubes. So go one way. And this is going to give some thickness to the soup, but it's also going to give that little caraway flavor, which is traditional in borscht. So we'll just put that in a bowl, and then we want to soak it. So I'm going to open up my can of beets, and instead of draining the liquid out, I'm actually going to drain the liquid right into our bread to soak it. So if you were cooking the beets from scratch, you would save some of the cooking liquid to use to soak your bread, but in this case we're just going to pour that beautiful red juice right in and just let the bread cubes soak. So while those are soaking, I'm going to pull everything else together. So I have one of those English cucumbers that doesn't have any seeds in it, and I need about half of this. And so this would also make a great topping for the soup afterwards as well. You can just chop up the rest of the cucumber and serve it on top. And again, because everything is going into the blender at the end, we don't need to be too careful about how things go. Depending on how good your blender is as well. If you have a Vitamix or something really powerful, you probably could almost throw these in whole. I have a more standard blender here, so I'm just chopping them up, in little bite-sized chunks. We'll just throw those in on top. And then we have some scallions, and so I have like 2 good-sized scallions here, so I'm just going to chop off those sort of wilty ends. That doesn't look so good. And then also the top, but the rest of it we're going to use. So again, just run your knife through them. just be careful. Sometimes these can have a little sand in them, so you want to give them a good swish in the sink before you use them so you don't have any like grit. Okay, so we'll throw those in. And then we're going to get some nice flavor with dill. So I'm using fresh dill, but you can use dried dill. If you use a dried herb, you generally want to use less of it. So I'm going to use about just like a good palmful of dill. If you really love dill, you can certainly use more. And then the juice of half of a lemon. So I like to just kind of pick the surface seeds out so I don't get them in there. And then to keep any other seeds from going in, I just squeeze it upside down. There they go, popping up to the surface. And this is, whoa, of course I spoke too soon. There we go. You also can just hold your hand out and catch any seeds that way too. Things I learned from Rachel Ray. And then finally, our last ingredient is some Greek yogurt. So traditionally, oh, and some sugar too, but traditionally, borscht would be maybe made with sour cream, and so I wanted to try this with Greek yogurt to bump up the protein and then lower the saturated fat, and it actually worked great. So you can use any kind of plain yogurt that you like. You can use non-fat, 2%, full fat, whatever you like. So about a cup of that. Just gonna dump it in. Just about a tablespoon of sugar. You can leave it out, but it definitely adds like a little extra sweetness, but beets are usually pretty sweet on their own. And so now I'm just gonna add the beets. So these are pretty small beets, and you can see like that. So I'm just gonna chop each one of them in half, but if you had really big ones, you would wanna chop them into smaller pieces. So I want to mention that a lot of people are a little averse to beets, or they think they don't like them. And I tested this recipe at home, and my husband, who told me I could say this, said, "You tell people in your class that I hate beets and I loved this soup." So if you think you don't like beets, I urge you to try this because it's super healthy and super easy on a hot summer night, and it might turn you into a beet lover. Alright, so that's it. We're probably going to need a little extra water, so I'm just going to kind of toss everything up together. And then I'm just going to use my empty can to put some water in there. Okay, so just about a can full of water. And then it's all going to go in the blender. Doesn't look too great just yet, but it will. Hopefully I don't make a big old mess of this. Of course, I probably could have just done it without the bowl and saved myself a dish. Blend it up, and you don't have to make it completely smooth. You can, leave some chunks in there, so it just depends on what you want to do. So what I'm going to do is just pour some into a bowl. You can see it's beautiful pink color. I think this would make a great fun appetizer on a summer night, like pour them into little shot glasses with tiny spoons. And then I'm just going to top it with a couple of chunks of cucumber. They sing. And a couple of chopped pieces of my chopped bread, which you could toast up. and that's that. So you can see you can come home on a hot summer night and make dinner in like less than 5 minutes, especially if you use the canned beets. So just as a reminder to fill out the survey, we'll be posting the recipe to this episode on our website, and we'll link it up from the Facebook page. If you have any questions about beets or this recipe or anything in general, just let us know. Drop me a note in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. Again, I'm Beth, and thank you for joining us today.